How do organisms reproduce? Today we are going to discuss about another important life process, that is reproduction. So in the previous chapters we learnt about nutrition and other life processes that help the organism to survive. So an organism, it needs to carry out so many activities, so many life processes to stay alive. Now, what is this life process? What is this reproduction? How does it help the organisms? Here the lesson is, how do organisms reproduce? Before we learn how do organisms reproduce, first we need to know answer for a question: why do organisms reproduce? What is the need? An organism, to stay alive, it has to carry out so many activities. It needs to acquire food, it needs to acquire oxygen and all the basic necessary things. So it has to carry out so many reactions just to live for itself. It's a very difficult task, but it does. Every organism, it does. It acquires the food, it gets the oxygen, it gets the food, and it lives. And it reproduces. That means it produces another organism of its own kind. To reproduce a new organism, it needs a lot of energy. It needs a lot of materials. Even then, the organism efforts to acquire a lot of energy, to acquire a lot of materials to produce the young one of its own kind. What is the interest in producing the young ones of own kind? So here the question: why do organisms reproduce? If there is no reproduction, there is no diversity of life. There is a lot of diversity. We see various kinds of species of plants and animals. So, in this world, if all the organisms are created only one without any ability to reproduce, if that organism dies, its existence is gone. No one identifies that. See, if there is only one single ant, you can't identify its existence. If there are groups and groups of ants, then you can identify its existence. Every species, it can get its significance when they are in large number. Every organism, it wants to perpetuate its race. Organisms want to perpetuate their race. Perpetuate their race. That means race in the sense, their race in the sense, their own species organisms. Tigers wanted to improve tiger population, humans wanted to increase human population, birds wanted to increase bird population. In such a way, every organism on this planet, it wants to produce its own kind in large number. That is the reason why organisms reproduce. Right? So we see the same thing in human beings also. That is the reason for increase in population. The human population is rapidly increased number of times in the past 1 decade, 100 years. In the past 100 years, you see that. In the past 1 century back, the population has grown drastically. So there are many reasons. Even humans reproduce to produce their young ones of their own kind, to produce their babies. You see, all plants, they produce seeds by which new plants are produced. Animals. So this reproduction, it helps the organisms to perpetuate their race, to continue their species. Otherwise, the continuity of the species is missing. The species will extinct, disappear. And this reproduction, whenever an organism, it produces another organism of its own kind. If it produces one organism X, it produces organism of another organism of same kind X. Will the newly formed organism and the parent organism are exactly identical? No, there are some differences. We will discuss what are the reasons for the differences. They may look similar. Organism X produces Y, which is similar to X. Y is similar to X, but not exactly identical. There are some differences. You may be similar to your father, but you are not exactly identical with your father. Your brother and you may be similar, but you both are not exactly identical. There are some differences. You are unique, your brother is unique, your father is unique, your mother is unique. Different, not matching with anyone on this planet. So, the reproduction, it brings variations, some changes in the organisms. These variations, variation means little changes in the organisms. These variations, they help for the important process in biology, evolution of species. Variations are basis for the evolution of species. If these variations are not there, this many species are not evolved, even the human beings. We might have not been evolved into the Homo sapiens sapiens, human beings, if there are no variations. There are no variations if there is no reproduction. So that is the importance of reproduction. So that is the reason why do organisms reproduce. But here we learned one thing, reproduction is a complex process. It needs a lot of energy and materials. So this process is achieved by either plants and by animals, but in different ways, not in the same way. Plants, they have different mechanisms to reproduce. Animals, they have different mechanisms to reproduce. So here we have seen that organisms produce the young ones of their own kind. Whatever the reasons might be, they produce the young ones of their own kind, but the young ones are not identical to the parent. They are not exactly identical to the parent. But every organism produces the young ones of its own kind. Dog produces a dog, cat produces a cat, man produces a baby, but man cannot produce a dog, cat or rat. That means every organism produces the young one of its own kind, but it is not exactly identical. Now we are going to discuss about the reasons why they are not exactly identical. What are the reasons? Here the crucial part is the DNA. DNA is the deoxyribonucleic acid present inside the nucleus of a cell. This DNA is considered as the blueprint of our body design, which will decide the characteristic features of an organism. So while copying of this DNA in the process of reproduction, in the process of producing young ones, in this copying of DNA, there will be some variations, some changes. The copies of DNAs are not made exactly similar. That brings the variations, that brings the changes in the organisms of same kind, but some little variations. Let us see how it happens. And one more important point here we have to notice, organisms cannot produce exactly identical copies because reproduction, in the process of reproduction, two different organisms involve. If you take it as sexual reproduction, two organisms involve in the production of an young one. Two organisms. If it is sexual, two organisms. Male and female. So here, when these two produce an young one, so this young one, how this young one can be exactly identical to this or exactly identical to this? Because in the process of reproduction, two organisms involved in sexual reproduction, the DNAs of two organisms are mixed together to form a new DNA. A part of a DNA is contributed by the father, a part of the DNA is contributed by the mother. So both these DNAs are recombined, which is called DNA recombination, and the new DNA is formed here. So it is a new one. Of course, this part is the human DNA part, this is a human DNA part, that is why this is also a human. But there are some variations here. So that is the reason why some variations occur. But you may get it out in case of asexual reproduction, or if you see in case of plants, there is a plant, it is a bisexual, it is having male and female parts, same plant is having female reproductive part, and here the anther of the same plant. So self-pollination takes place. Here the pollination has taken place in the same plant. You may get the doubt, yes, it is the same plant, it is plant X. Now the DNA present in the anther, now the DNA present in the ovule, both are of same kind. then the plant that comes, it should be exactly identical to the parent, because both the DNAs belong to the same plant. Here the young one, the young plant comes. So will this plant is exactly identical to the parent? The answer is no. Why? Here in case of sexual reproduction, as the new organism is acquired its DNA from father and mother, so definitely this is a different one. A new recombined DNA has formed here. But what is the case here? Here the DNA is same kind from the plant, same plant. But here the young one is not exactly identical. That means while the copying of DNA, there will be some errors. So the copying of DNA is not accurate in any of the living organism. There will be some changes happen while copying. So this organism, in this particular part, in the female reproductive system, one new cell is formed from the old cell by cell division. During this process, a DNA is made into two copies. One DNA becomes two DNA. So while copying, there will be some errors. And whatever the new DNA is prepared, the DNA is pushed out with some cell apparatus. Sometimes this DNA, it may associate with the cell apparatus, sometimes it may not, the cell will die. So here, when a new cell is formed from an old cell, the DNA is not exactly copied. That is what. So it brings some changes. So in this way, some changes happen in the DNA. So whatever the organism it comes, it is not exactly identical, but it is similar. So here we have seen that at every stage, whenever there is reproduction, whenever there is a copying of new cell, production of new cell from the parent, there are some changes in the DNA, which we are calling them as variations. Now let us see what are these variations. Are they really helpful for the organism or useless? The variations are very helpful for the organisms. How? How they are useful? So overall, in general, we discussed that variations are helpful for the process of evolution. Let us see how the variations are helpful for the organisms. Different organisms live in different places. If you take an ecosystem, if you take a pond ecosystem, in pond there are different levels. There are some organisms that live on the surface of the pond, some live in the top layer of the pond, some as a bottom feeders, some plants grow at the bottom, some plants float on that, some organisms live on the bunds of the pond, some trees grow here. So likewise, if you see an ecosystem, different organisms live at different places. Why do they choose a specific place? Which comforts their nutrition as well as their reproduction. If the organism is comfortably get its food and reproduce here, it will live here. If an organism is comfortable to get its food and reproduce here, it will live here. So the organisms, they live in the place of their comfort, that is their habitat, which provide everything for their maintenance, for their nutrition, for their growth and for their reproduction. They select such place as their habitat. So the habitat of an organism is that the place in which an organism gets everything to survive. So in an ecosystem, there are different places. Different organisms fill in different places called as a niche of the organism. So the organism is comfortably, happily living in a particular niche. It is living there happily. So the organism produces the young ones. If the young ones are exactly identical, if there are no variations, what happens? See, if this organism X, it produced organism Y, it produced organism Z. So the organisms, there is no change. Just think that there is no change in the characteristics or variations. If there are no variations, they are living in some niche, some place, environment. This X organism is living in a water which is of 30 degrees temperature. But when it comes to the next generation, the environmental factors may not stay in the same way. They may be changing. They are not under the control of organism. Because of global warming, the temperature is raised to 35. If this organism is exactly like its parent without any changes, will it survive at this temperature? Doubtful. The next copy also exactly identical to the parent X. The Z is also exactly identical to X. Here the temperature is 45 or 40. So the organism definitely it will die. That means it is not adjusted to the environment. It is not adapted to the environment, then it becomes extinct. If it happens, all the organisms extinct. So the environmental factors, the temperature, the climatic conditions, they vary, they change from time to time. If organisms are produced without any changes, without any variations, they cannot exist in the changing physical world, in the physical atmosphere. You see, the bacteria are living in that water, in the marshy places. They are living at particular temperature. So if the temperatures of that place are raising up, high temperatures, then bacteria will die. But among those bacteria, if some bacteria have developed some variations which help them to survive in higher temperature, they will live. The bacteria which cannot survive in high temperature, the bacteria which do not have variations that help to live in high temperature will exist. See, I will explain you here. There is a bacteria called A here. Here is a bacteria called B. It produced A1, its generation, it produced B1. Both are able to live at 30 degrees temperature climatic condition. This A produced A1, the A1 is having a variation which can live up to 40 degrees Celsius. The B produced B1, it has got some variation, but not the variation which helped to live in 40 degrees. Or it helped to produce, it produced a variation which helped B1 to live in 21 degrees. Suppose in the environment the temperature is raised here to 40 degrees. Then A will get the opportunity to survive because it has got the variation to live in 40 degrees. B1, its variation is living in 20 degrees Celsius. It will die. So in the nature, some organisms will extinct. We are reading in the books, so and so bird is became extinct. So and so animal became extinct. So and so animal is not found now. It is in the red book. Why the animals are extinct? Why they are becoming extinct? Because the variations in them are not helping the organisms to cope up and live in the particular environment. That is the reason they become extinct. So variations are advantageous, help the organisms. That it doesn't mean that all variations help all organisms. The variations are naturally coming in the organisms. Sometimes for some of the organisms, some variations are helpful, advantageous. Sometimes it is disadvantageous and they disappear. They become extinct. So these variations, they form the basis for the process of evolution. Anyhow, the variations in us, we have lot of variations when we compare with our forefathers and their bodies and to our present, because the environment is changing, everything is changing, the outer atmosphere is changing, the composition of air is changing, the temperatures are changing, global warming. So the next generations, the new generations whichever are coming up, they will have some variations. Some of the variations may become advantageous and help the organisms to survive. So we have seen the necessity of reproduction and we learnt about the variations. We learned that organisms reproduce and produce the young ones of their own kind. Every organism produces the young ones of its own kind, which is similar to that but not exactly identical. Now we are going to discuss how the organisms produce the young ones of their own kind. By what method? Do all organisms follow a similar method of reproduction? No. Different organisms have different methods of reproduction depending upon their complexity of their body, complexity of their organization. There are various methods of reproduction. So organisms propagate in different ways, different methods. Let us see the modes of reproduction used by single-celled organisms. What kind of reproduction is observed in single-celled organisms? The organisms that have only one cell throughout their life are called single-celled, or we can call them as unicellular organisms. So here, if you see this the modes of reproduction used by single-celled organism, the major one is fission. Fission. It is an asexual mode of reproduction, means that is from a single cell, the production of new organisms takes place. It is of two types. The fission is of two types. Binary fission the second one is multiple fission. The name itself tells us that binary, one cell, it divides into two daughter cells, that is binary fission. Multiple, one cell divides into many daughter cells, this is called multiple fission. Here cell division takes place, it is at the cellular level. That means the cell it divides, very simple. This is the very simplest form of reproduction. Here in binary fission, you see the bacteria is an example for binary fission. If this is the cell of the bacterial cell, it consists of some genetic material, that is the DNA present inside its body without any cover, without any nucleus. Genetic material is directly present in the cytoplasm. So what happens here, the wall of the bacteria, it takes a constriction like this, folding. Now the genetic material also starts divide into two. Here the genetic material, here the genetic material. Now this wall it grows up, and finally it attaches like this, and both the cells get detached. Now these are the two daughter cells, separate two daughter cells that are formed from the parent cell. So now there is no question of parent. Where is the parent? So here the parent has become into two cells. Now you cannot tell which is parent, which is daughter. Parent is not existed here because the parent cell is divided into two daughter cells. You cannot say this is parent, this is daughter. We cannot distinguish it like that. This is the binary fission in which a cell splits into two, a cell divides into two. First the genetic material it is divided, then the cytoplasm is divided, and whatever the cell membrane is there, the cell membrane it constricts like this and divides both the cells, and they are formed as two individual organisms, daughter cells. So this kind of binary fission is observed in organisms like bacteria, and this is also observed in protozoa. Protozoans we observe this binary fission. We can say take the example like amoeba. In case of amoeba also it splits into two. Amoeba binary fission we see, Paramecium, Euglena. And one more important point that we have to notice here is that in some of the organisms, this binary fission it follows a specific orientation. That means, for example, here is an organism called amoeba. If the amoeba splits at any orientation, any axis, the two daughter cells you can easily form because the amoeba is not having any specific shape. But if some organisms you see, they will be having some special structures. See for example Leishmania, it is having a whip-like structure. A whip-like structure. So the division takes place at particular orientation, at particular axis. Even the binary fission in case of Paramecium, it happens at a particular orientation, particular direction. So that is observed in binary fission. Anyway, binary fission means the division of the organism into two daughter cells, two individual daughter cells is called as binary fission. This is a very simple mode of reproduction which involves only one cell, one organism is involved. So this is binary fission. Whereas if you see the multiple fission, here one organism is divided into number of organisms. One parent cell divides into number of daughter cells. Here we take the example Entamoeba histolytica, Entamoeba. So this Entamoeba, it reproduces by multiple fission. So here the Entamoeba histolytica, this is the case in which one single organism is divided into a number of daughter cells. This is called as multiple fission, means one cell, one parent cell to many daughter cells. So this is a method of reproduction that is used by single celled organisms. So the mode of reproduction in simple organisms, that is single-celled organisms, and even though the multicellular organisms, if you see certain organisms are very small, that means they consist of very few number of cells, and even though all the cells are of same kind. For example, if you take Spirogyra, it is a multicellular organism, but the cells are similar. But if you see a big animal, if you take human being, we are multicellular. Even then, in our body, all the cells are not alike. We are made up of various kinds of system. Each system is made up of various organs. Various organs are made up of various tissues. Each tissue consists of a specialized cells. That means all cells are not of same type. So, cell by cell division is not possible in higher animals because the cells are differentiated into various tissues, different kinds of tissues. So, differentiation has taken place in complex organisms. But whereas in the simple forms, that is in case of the single celled organisms or in case of the multicellular organisms which are very simple, we can find some modes of reproduction which are very simple. So, we have seen the fission. It is a very simple mode of reproduction in which a cell divides into either two or many. If it is two, you call it as binary fission, and we learned the examples like amoeba, bacteria, and certain protozoans like Paramecium, etc. Paramecium, Euglena, Leishmania, whatever, so we have discussed it here. Multiple fission examples: Entamoeba, and Plasmodium. Plasmodium is also a protozoan. Plasmodium is also a protozoan. The Plasmodium, it causes malaria in human beings. This Plasmodium also reproduces by multiple fission method, Plasmodium. So these are the examples of multiple fission. These are the mode of reproduction in single celled organisms. Now let us see the budding. Budding is found in multicellular as well as unicellular. In case of unicellular organisms, if you see the yeast is a kind of fungus, but it is unicellular. In fungus there are so many species, but yeast is the only species which is unicellular. Other fungi are multicellular. So yeast is a unicellular organism. How it reproduces? Yeast reproduces by a process called budding. This is a mature or grown up yeast cell. When the yeast is completely mature, it produces a bud on its body. On its body it produces a small bud. So this bud, it grows up again, it produces a bud. It may produce a bud. It may produce many buds. This way the budding takes place. So these buds, they get detached from the mother cell, the parent cell, and they grow individually into new yeast organisms. So this is the way they reproduce. This is also the simplest mode of reproduction seen in single celled organisms. However, in case of multicellular organisms also budding is seen. We will discuss it later. The next one is fragmentation. Fragmentation is the simplest method of reproduction in multicellular organism. Example, we can take Spirogyra. So the Spirogyra, whenever it is mature, whenever it is completely grown up, the Spirogyra filaments, you might have seen the Spirogyra filaments in your laboratory on the permanent slide. It is a green color. Spirogyra. All cells are similar. So it splits into many parts. Now each individual part can grow into an individual Spirogyra. This is called as fragmentation, becoming fragments. Each fragment can grow into a new organism. But can we apply the same concept how the Spirogyra, whenever it is split into different parts, each part can grow into a new organism? Can we apply this mode of reproduction to higher organisms? Why can't humans reproduce like that? It is not possible. Because I already told you, in higher organisms, all the cells are not alike. In our body, the cells are differentiated into various systems, and each system is comprised of various tissues. That means all the cells are not alike in our body. So differentiation has taken place. But whereas in the simple form, in Spirogyra, all the cells are alike, so there is a possibility of fragmentation. They can use this fragmentation as a mode of reproduction, but that is not possible in the higher organisms. So they have other means, they have other complex means of reproduction. So now, after fragmentation, we can see one more method, that is regeneration. So the next one is regeneration. What is this regeneration? Here, this is a method which is observed in many multicellular organisms which have specialized tissues. In the earlier case, Spirogyra fragmentation, it is not having any specialized tissue, same kind of cells throughout its body. If it is cut into many parts, then each part can be grown into individual organism. That is fragmentation. Here we see regeneration. What is this regeneration? Here the best examples we can study under this regeneration are Hydra and Planaria. If these organisms are cut into different parts, if a Planaria is cut into different parts, each part can grow into an individual organism. This is regeneration. This is observed in many organisms. That means, so these organisms, they have the ability, here this part is cut. How can this part produce the complete organism? Whatever the part that is cut, it proliferates. That means cell divisions takes place and it forms a mass of cells. And these mass of cells, they differentiate again into the organism. That means initially all the cells are alike, but slowly they develop into different organs, different kinds of cells. This is differentiation. Certain cells in the body of organisms, they can differentiate. Even in human bodies also, in case of humans also, certain cells have the capacity of differentiation. Say for example, there is a human, so just to you compare this fragmentation in the Hydra and Planaria. If the hand of a human is cut and it is kept separate, can the new human come from this hand? Is there any possibility? Just like in case of Hydra or Planaria, in case of Planaria. In case of Planaria, if you cut it into small pieces, each piece can grow into an individual Planaria. Whatever the cut part is there, that part can grow into a group of cells. Now this group of cells differentiate into complete organism. So that is possible. But in case of multicellular organisms, this is in multicellular. Why it is not possible in humans? In humans it is not possible. But in our body also there are some cells which can differentiate and produce an organism or produce whatever the part we like. Say recently you might have heard about stem cell banks. Stem cell banks. In our bodies we have some specialized cells called as stem cells. These cells are more in number when we were born. Especially these cells were found in the umbilical cord. That is, the newborn babies you see, the newborn baby will have a cord attached to the mother called as umbilical cord. So whenever the baby is born, this umbilical cord is cut. Now the stem cell banks, they are preserving the part of this umbilical cord with stem cells. They are preserving it for future use. Why they are preserving it? So if anybody has got their baby, so immediately the baby is born, they can keep the stem cells in the bank for their future medical uses. How? For example, there is a person called as X. and Y. So father X, mother Y. They have a baby called as Z. So when this Z is born, his umbilical cord is preserved. When there is a problem with X liver, father's liver got damaged, there is a problem. So father needs some liver. A part of liver has to be transplanted. In such cases, whatever the umbilical cord that is stored from this baby in the stem cell bank, from that umbilical cord, from that stem cells, the organ can be developed and kept in this person to save him. So in this way, in humans also, the doctors and scientists are finding the possibilities of differentiation, generating the complete body or at least some parts of our body from some cells by different methods. So here in regeneration we can understand this concept. Hydra and Planaria, these organisms, if they are cut into different parts, each part can differentiate into a complete organism. That is possible. But humans, it is not directly possible, but in case of stem cells it is possible. By preserving our stem cells, we can get our body parts in future artificially developed in the labs by using our stem cells. So that is the case in case of regeneration. So budding is another method of reproduction, another mode of reproduction in which a single organism is involved. Budding already we discussed in unicellular organisms, that is yeast. So budding is seen in unicellular organism, that is yeast, and in multicellular organism, that is Hydra. So Hydra is having tentacles and the body like this. So this Hydra, it produces a small bud on its body, surface of its body. This bud gradually grows up and it detaches from the parent and it grows as an individual or separate organism. So this is what called as budding in Hydra. So now let us look at the another methods or mode of reproduction in organisms, that is vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation, these methods that are applied in plants to get various agricultural benefits. Many of the plants, they are able to produce young ones from their vegetative parts. So what are vegetative parts? Plant having different parts like leaf, stem, roots, flowers, fruit, seeds, buds. Out of this, flower is the reproductive part of the plant. Pollination takes place in the flower, fertilization takes place in the flower. The flower, it turns to fruit, it bears the seeds, and the seeds, they sprout up into new plant. This is sexual reproduction in plants. Apart from the flower, the other parts like leaf, if a plant is able to produce a new plant either from leaf or from stem or from root or from bud. If a new plant is produced from either of these parts, you call it as vegetative propagation. Naturally, this may not happen in all the cases, but artificially in nurseries, if you practice it, you can get new plants identical to the parent plant within a very short period. Examples, sugarcane. You might have seen sugarcane. It is just like a bamboo, but it is soft and it is having sugary juice. The sugarcane, it has got so many nodes. It is divided into nodes. At each node, you can see some root-like structures. If you cut the sugarcane into parts, and we have to see that each part contains at least one node, and if you plant that part in the soil, you will get a new sugarcane plant. That means from stem cutting. In the same way, rose plant, if you cut a piece of stem, rose stem, with a blade you have cut it, and you planted the stem in the soil, it grows into a new plant. What is the benefit? See, you have gone to your friend's house. There you have seen a rose which you liked the most. You thought the flowers are most beautiful. You wanted some rose plant with the same kind. You cannot get the same kind with same color, same brightness. You may go to nursery and find out. Very difficult. So you wanted to have the same kind of plant at your home. So then you can ask your friends permission, and then you can cut a small stem, a part of the stem, small branch. Then you can take this rose branch to your house and you can plant it in your pot. After a few days, it will produce roots and it grows into a new plant. And it will bear the flowers exactly like your friend's plant. Genetically, they are identical. Reproduction is very simple. You wait till the rose gives you the seeds, and if you plant the seeds, you may not be able to get the same kind of plant, because this plant might have undergone some cross-pollination. So by sexual reproduction, if you collect the seeds of this plant and sow that there, you may not get exact copy. But by the method of this stem cutting is one of the vegetative propagation, you will get the exact copy. So there are different methods of vegetative propagation like cuttings, stem cuttings, grafting, layering. These are the various methods by which we can produce new plants from the vegetative parts of the plants. Vegetative parts are leaf, stem, root, bud. From these we can get the new plants with the identical characters. So this is the advantage of the vegetative propagation, which is widely used in the plantations, that is in the fruit plantations, vegetable cultivation, and floriculture, culture of flowers. Flowers also have got good commercial importance. Various kinds of flowers used for decorations and various purposes. So they have a lot of commercial value. This kind of plants are also propagated so quickly in the nurseries by following the vegetative propagation methods. So here we see some other methods like tissue culture is an advanced technique by which we can generate a complete plant by collecting a few cells. In the previous case we discussed in vegetative propagation, by cutting a part of the plant, you can generate a new plant. You can grow it into a new plant. Part means bigger in sense, naked. You can see with your eye. Say for example, rose plant stem you have cut. The stem is seen to your eyes. That is big enough. But few number of cells which are invisible. You have taken a very small tissue. Plants have the capability of producing a new plant even from small tissue. But the small tissue that is collected, you cannot keep it in the soil. It will decompose. It cannot grow into a new plant. Then what do we do this tissue? We can keep the tissue in a test tube. This tissue is kept in a test tube in the nutrient medium. And moreover, it is sterilized. That means made free from bacteria. Otherwise, fungus will get, bacteria will destroy the tissue. The tissue is sterilized, treated for not affecting with any bacteria or fungus. And the tissue is kept in a medium, nutrient medium, which will provide the nutrients. And the total thing is kept in hygienic conditions, non-infectious conditions. Then the tissue will grow into a new plant. Once this is grown into a plantlet, the plant can be potted. It can be kept in a pot. So, tissue culture is the latest advanced technique in which you can grow number of plants at a time. 1000 plants you want. Yes, you collect some tissue. Tissue means it's a group of cells. Thousands of cells will be there in very small tissue. So 1000 plants you can grow at a time. But the thing is, you need a laboratory. You need equipment. You need technicians. Then it is possible to grow 1000 plants of same kind in less time by using the tissue culture technique. And we find some of the plants or some of the organisms reproduce by spores. You call it as spore formation, sporulation. Best example we see is that fungus, and under this fungus we see the molds, bread mold. When some food is made wet, damp and kept in humid conditions, you see some hair-like structures are grown. This is nothing but the mold, bread mold. If you observe the hair-like structure, it will have a long stalk-like body and top head. The head contains small dot-like structures called as spores. These spores are just like seeds of a plant. If the spores are transferred by air or any other means to some other food material or some other place where the nutrients available, these spores will germinate. This kind of reproduction is called as spore formation or sporulation. Example, mucor, kind of fungus in which we observe. Even in some plants, we observe the spores in ferns. If you see the leaf of a fern, on the underside of the leaf you see some kind of spores, and these plants, they reproduce by spores. They do not produce any flowers and seeds. They have only spores. What is that example? Ferns. So we have seen various methods of reproduction in which there is no fusion of male and female gamete. All the methods so far we discussed are asexual methods. That means there is no fusion of male gamete, female gamete. A single organism is capable of producing young ones. These are all the examples. We have seen animals, we have seen plants, unicellular, multicellular. So there are so many modes of reproduction in sexual method. Next, we are going to discuss about sexual method of reproduction. We have seen asexual method of reproduction. Now we are going to discuss about sexual mode of reproduction. Sexual mode. Male gamete, female gamete fuses together to form a zygote which develops into a young one. This is a more advanced one where the DNA recombination takes place, and the young ones that come, they have very high possibilities of variations, and the process of evolution is possible mainly because of this sexual reproduction. Let us see how the sexual reproduction takes place in plants and animals. So, we have seen about the reproduction, the mode of reproduction in which a single organism involves in producing the young ones of its own kind. We have seen various methods like spore formation or fragmentation or regeneration or fission or budding. All these are the methods in which a single organism involves. So we generally call all those modes as asexual modes, and even vegetative propagation in plants also asexual. Then what is the sexual means of reproduction? In sexual reproduction, there is involvement of two organisms. Two organisms X and Y. Two organisms participate in the process of reproduction, that is in the production of young ones. So this sexual reproduction, it involves two organisms of not same gender. Two organisms of opposite gender. What is the gender? Male, female. So, sexual reproduction is possible by two organisms not of same kind, not of same gender, two different gender, male, female. And also, the sexual reproduction is not possible between various species. It is possible only between the two organisms, one male and one female of the same species. The organisms of the same species are able to reproduce. Two organisms, one male and one female of the same species, can participate in the process of sexual reproduction to produce an young one of their own kind. But how is this young one? Similar to the parents, but not identical. Here, father, here mother. The young one is similar to the parents. The young one acquires some characters from father, some characters from mother, but not identical to any one of them. In the sexual methods, in the asexual methods, we have seen that even though the organisms are produced from single organism, there are some changes in their DNAs. So there are some variations. Here in sexual reproduction there is more scope for variations, more chance of variations, more chances of variations. Many variations are produced here because we know that the genetic material DNA, here is a DNA, here is a DNA. Now the young one gets the DNA. How it gets the DNA? He gets the share of DNA from father and mother. 50% of DNA from father, 50% of DNA from mother. He will get a new DNA which is a combination of father and mother DNA. So here combination takes place. Recombination takes place. New combination. So definitely there are more variations. So in this sexual reproduction there are more chances for more variation. So sexual reproduction, it helps a lot for the process of evolution because more and more variations are observed in the generations in the process of sexual reproduction. So in the sexual reproduction there is a fusion of male and female gametes. So the cells are duplicated, divided and produced the young ones, producing the young ones. Let us see here, we consider this is one organism X and Y. So X contains the genetic material A, and Y contains genetic material A. This is the genetic material, the DNA, it is in the form of chromosomes, and here also it is in the form of chromosomes. Here two organisms are involved in the production of new organism, male, female. These two organisms, they are giving rise to a new organism. So this new organism Z, just think that it is Z, it is getting the genetic material from female, that is Y, it is getting that A genetic material, and it is getting that A genetic material from X, A plus A 2A. It means that the genetic material is doubled in this generation. But is it a fact? Is it happening like that? Do you have double the amount of chromosomes in you when compared to your parent? In such case, your children will have double than you. Their generations, next generation will have double than them. In this way, if it happens at each and every stage of the sexual reproduction, the amount of chromosomes, genetic material is doubled, the total planet would be filled up with genetic material. There won't be any room for any other organism or any other thing to exist, because if the genetic material is doubled like that, it is not happening. It is not happening. Then what is happening? Here in the sexual reproduction, the kind of cell division, the lineages are different, not like other cases. Generally in our body, cell division takes place. Every day number of cells are formed in our body, because every day we lose number of cells in our blood, in our muscles, in our skin. Our skin loses number of cells every day. New cells are formed. But how the new cells are formed? Here is the skin cell. From the pre-existing cell, a new cell is formed. You know the cell theory. New cells are always formed from the pre-existing ones. Here it contains the genetic material A. The new cell contains the genetic material A. Same amount of chromosome. Exactly. This is normal cell division. Means when a new cell is formed from the pre-existing one, whatever the amount of chromosome is there, whatever the number of chromosomes are there. For example, here we have 36 chromosomes. In this also you will have 36 chromosomes. But in reproduction, in sexual reproduction, the reproductive cells or the germ cells are produced by different division. So that is the division in which the newly formed cell will get 50% of chromosomes from male, 50% of chromosomes from female. That means here the male is having A amount of chromosomes, it will get 1 by 2A, and from female it has A, here it will get 1 by 2A. So it becomes A. That means the new organism is also having the same number of chromosomes to their parent. So this kind of cell division, special cell division is observed here. And one more thing already I discussed here, the genetic recombination takes place. When a new cell is formed, the DNA is copied. So while copying, if there are many errors, the DNA cannot accommodate in the cell apparatus and the cell will die. While copying the DNA, there are less errors, there is less chance for variations. But in sexual reproduction, you see two individual organisms combine to produce a single organism. Here male X, he is having some variations. He is male, he is having some variations. Here female Y, she is having some variations. Two individuals with different variations, they are producing a cell, zygote. Here they are producing, the female produces female cell, the male produces male cell, which contain half amount of chromosomes, half number of chromosomes, then their original cell. These two cells join together, they form a zygote. So this will be having very good variations, which are very helpful variations are accumulated here. And this zygote is a new variant. So in every generation, we are new variants. When compared to our parents, we have acquired the variations accumulated in both the mother and father. So out of those, we get good variations which help us to survive, exist. But sometimes, in some cases, any disorders are there in the genetic material of your parent, either mother or father, there are some chances of acquiring such disorders also. But there also there is a ratio, there is a calculation whether you acquire it or not. Okay, so that is a different case we study in genetics. In this way, whatever the variations are there in the parent organisms, these variations accumulated and the new DNA is formed here in the zygote in sexual reproduction. So there is more scope for these variations. And moreover here, in sexual reproduction, the sex cells or the germ cells whatever are formed, these sex cells or germ cells will have the half number of chromosomes. So by that, when two sex cells combine, they form a zygote with the number of chromosomes that are there in that organism. So in this way, the sexual reproduction is carried. So now let us see the difference between the germ cells and the somatic cells. What are somatic cells? The cells that are present in our body parts, like the cells present in your skin, the cells present in your muscle, the cells present in your body parts, the cells present in your blood, all these are somatic cells. But in your body, there are some special cells called as germ cells that help in the sexual reproduction, that participate in the sexual reproduction. Somatic cells are found in everywhere in our body, but exclusively in reproductive parts, some special cells are produced called as germ cells. What is the difference between germ cell and somatic cell? Somatic cells will have 2n number of chromosomes. Means two sets of chromosomes will be there in somatic cell. 1n number of chromosomes. So that is the main difference between these germ cells and somatic cells. Germ cells, they combine together. Male germ cell is called as male germ cell, is called as sperm. It fuses with female germ cell called as ova. It fuses with sperm, fuses with ova to form zygote. In most of the cases, the male germ cell or the male sex cell or the male reproductive cell or the male gamete, all these are names, same name, same cell with different names. The germ cells are also called as reproductive cells. They are also called as gametes. If it is a male germ cell, it is called as a sperm cell. The sperm cells are motile. That means they have some movement. Female germ cells are called as ova. And these two together, fuse together to form a zygote. So the fusion is called as fertilization. This happens in the sexual reproduction. The reproduction in which a male gamete, a sperm cell, fuses with a female gamete to form a zygote is called as sexual reproduction. So here it involves the participation of two organisms, male organism, female organism. This kind of reproduction is seen in both plants as well as in animals. In case of plants, you may not call it as a sperm cell. You call it as a male gamete and female gamete. We don't call it as a sperm in case of plants, but in case of animals, you call it as a sperm and ova. In plants, you call it as a male gamete and female gamete. Even plants have got male and female reproductive parts, but in most cases, they are all fixed in one part called as flower. There are some flowers which consist of both male and female parts. Those are bisexual flowers. Some flowers will have either male or female organs. Those are called as unisexual flowers. So whatever may be the arrangement, even in flowers also, the male gametes reach the female parts and they fertilize the egg cells to form the zygote, so on. Let us see how this mechanism of transfer of gametes, the fusion of gametes. So here we discussed that the gametes are fused together. For fusion, they should be brought to one place. They should come close to each other. Who will bring them close to each other? So both these are belongs to two individuals, different individuals. There is X and Y, two persons. How the germ cells of X and Y come close? What is the site of union? How they join together, where they join together? All this we will see. So now let us see the sexual reproduction in plants. I already told you the flower is the reproductive part. Unit, better we say unit, it consists of reproductive parts. Some flowers, they consist of both male and female parts. Some flowers consist of either male or female parts. If the flower consists of either male or female reproductive organs, you call it as unisexual flower. Example, papaya watermelon. If the flower consists of both male and female reproductive organs, you call it as bisexual flower. Example, hibiscus, mustard. Here we have different parts of a flower. This is a bisexual flower which is having both the female and male reproductive parts. So we have already studied about the structure of flower. It consists of different parts, like the flower consists of a base called as thalamus. This is called as thalamus, on which all the other parts are embedded. This is called as the peduncle of the leaf, and here this is called as sepal, and this is the colored part to attract the insects called as petal, and this is the male reproductive part, androecium or stamens, male part. And this one is the female reproductive part, pistil, female part. So we know the sexual reproduction, the concept of sexual reproduction. Male gamete fuses with female gamete. Where is the female gamete? Here inside the pistil. Pistil has got different parts. This is stigma. The top part is called as stigma, and this tube-like structure is called as style, and this is called as ovary. Inside the ovary, female gametes are there. Inside the ovary, ovules are there. One or many ovules. The ovules consist of female cells, which is located here. So for the fusion with the female gamete, the male gamete has to travel from where? From its source of production. Here where the male gamete is produced, here in the anthers. So the stamen consists of a head-like part called as anther. The anther consists of pollen. We see the yellow color powdery substance present in the flower. The yellow color powdery substance is the pollen. Pollen consists of male gametes. Now this pollen, it has to travel from here to here. How it happens? By various natural means. Insects help in the pollination. Many of the insects, they visit the flower for nectar. During this process, the pollen sticks to the legs of the insects. When the insects visit different flowers, the pollen is dropped down to the stigmas of various flowers. From there, the transfer of male gamete takes place. Not only insect, wind, water and other means are also helpful. Various natural agents are helpful in the process of pollination. Pollination is nothing but the transfer of pollen from anther to stigma of a flower. If it takes place within the flower, you call it as self-pollination. If it takes place between two different flowers, you call it as cross-pollination. Two different flowers in the sense not of two different flowers of different species, of same species. So if it takes place, cross-pollination. Whatever may be, self-pollination or cross-pollination, that is, it happens because, that is, with the help of agents like wind, water or insects. Major contribution is done by the insects for the transfer of pollen. So here from the anther to stigma, the pollen reaches. Stigma has got some sticky substance which enable the pollen to stick. Once the pollen is stick to the stigma, it produces a tube called as pollen tube. How long? So long. This pollen tube, it grows and grows and grows and extends into the ovary. It passes into the ovary. The male gametes present in the pollen, they travel like this through this pollen tube and they pass down and finally they reach the ovule, and inside the ovule female gametes are there. So there the male gametes enter into the ovule. Once they enter into the ovule, it fuses with the female gamete to form the zygote. So here zygote is formed. This zygote, once the zygote is formed inside the ovule, what happens? The flower loses all its parts. The ovary increases in its size. The ovary becomes the fruit. And what happens to the ovule? Ovule becomes the seed. Then what is this zygote? Zygote becomes the embryo. Embryo is covered by seed. Seed is covered by fruit. So fruit consists of seed. Seed consists of embryo. Seed does not contain only embryo. Seed contains embryo and cotyledons to provide food to the embryo. Once the seed is planted, the embryo starts growing into a new plant by using the materials present inside the seed. You call it as germination. That means the seed, it grows into your plant. So once the fertilization takes place, the ovule turns to a seed. The ovary turns to a fruit. That means flower changes to fruit. Which part of the flower changes to fruit? You are eating a fruit. Which part you are eating? The ovary of the flower is changed to fruit. You are throwing away the seeds. Which part of the flower you are throwing away? Ovule. Where is the baby plant? Inside the seed. Seed is not the baby plant. Seed contains some packed food material, nutrients and embryo. Embryo is a part of seed. The embryo is the baby plant. It grows into a plant by using the materials present in the seed. So this process is called as seed germination. You might have done various activities, experiments in your 3rd, 4th, 5th classes about seed germination. Various conditions necessary for seed germination. You can relate those things to here, the sexual reproduction in plants. So this is the way how the sexual reproduction takes place in plants. Now let us see the reproduction in human beings. We have seen the reproduction in plants, now reproduction in animals, but here we are not discussing the reproduction, various modes of reproduction in lower forms of organisms or animals. We are going to discuss about the reproduction in human beings. So here the human reproduction is of sexual type. Sexual reproduction involves two organisms of different gender, one male and one female. Two organisms are involved in this process of reproduction. And one more point we discussed earlier, for the process of reproduction, reproductive cells are needed. When an organism, either man or woman, male or female, is capable of producing reproductive cells, then that organism is eligible for reproduction. Means then that organism can participate in reproduction. To participate in reproduction, the organism should be able to produce the reproductive cells. When this happens? So in our life, in our growth pattern, there are various stages which are controlled by hormones, which we discussed in the previous chapter. A baby is born. A young baby cannot reproduce. The baby has to grow. You see the different events that takes place at particular ages, the changes that takes place in our bodies at particular stages as an events. When we are born, we don't know anything. Simple response to the stimuli. Just for pain, pressure and hunger, we cry as a baby. The baby grows to 6 months, baby smiles, baby learns social smiling, baby gets teeth. So why does the baby get teeth only at 6 months of age? Of course, it may be different from baby to baby at 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, but there is one stage, approximately 5th month or 6th month or 7th month, varies from baby to baby, depends upon the nutrition and other conditions. But only at that point it is initiated. That is because of hormones. The baby grow into a kid, right? So when they attain the age of 6 years, they lose their milk teeth and they get the permanent teeth. So only at some point, some change is triggered in our body, in everybody's body. Everybody at 6 years to 7 years of age, they lose their teeth and they get new teeth. That all happens because of hormones. So in our body, the changes, the physical changes are programmed like that. This program is fixed in the DNA. So you see at 6 years, we lose milk teeth and we get the permanent teeth. Then the kids grow. They attain some age of 11, 12, 13 years. You call them as teenagers. At this stage, we call a change in our bodies. We call that particular group as adolescents. Earlier we call as infants, 0 to 2 years infants. Then babies, kids we call them as. After the teens we call them as. At this period, what you say is some 12 years above. We call them as adolescents, 13, 14, 15 and 16 years of age. We call it as adolescence. So this is the age, some 16 or 17. This is the age where you attain the sexual maturation or sexual maturity. Sexual maturity. What is sexual maturity? The sexual organs, they mature, means they become ready or prepared to produce reproductive cells. Sexual maturity means the organism, if you say one organism is attained sexual maturity, means that organism is able to produce sex cells, that means germ cells. So when it happens, you see the male, boy and girl, they need to have some age, at a specific age. That is, as I told you, it is not exactly same for all the children. You see that female, if you see the girls, the sexual maturation process may start at 11 years or 12 years or 13 years. So it starts, it initiates. So how it is initiated? By hormones. And how do we know that the changes are initiated? They are observed by some changes in their body, physical changes. We can observe it, okay. This girl is becoming adolescent, you can observe it. this boy is becoming adolescent, we can observe that. And you yourself, you can recognize, you yourself, you can identify the changes in your body, which happens during the period of adolescence. That is because of the reproductive hormones produced in male and female. In the hormones lesson, in the control coordination lesson, I already told you about the hormones. In males, testosterone starts produced, and this testosterone brings the sexual characters in males, and estrogen brings sexual characteristics in females. Why physical changes? These physical changes enable the opposite sex to identify the other organism is capable of reproducing. That is the reason. And let us see what are the physical changes you observe. You see, if it is in case of the boys, when they attain the age of 12, 13, 14, during this period, their body increases in height, growth increases, the size of bones increases, bones size, body size increases. So here let us see what kind of physical changes, noticeable, observable changes takes place when the sexual maturation starts in the body of boys and girls. So here in case of the boys, you see the growth. The growth is at maximum rate. So quickly, so fast they grows up. Till the age of 12, they'll be like small kids. Suddenly they starts increasing the height. They go to 5 feet, 6 feet tall. The length of the bones increases. So that is the one noticeable character we observe. The initial thing we observe, growth. And we observe the cracked voice. Cracked voice. The voice, it changes. There is a difference between the voice of a man and between the voice of a boy. Boy's voice is a very high pitched voice. Man voice is a low pitched bass voice. Now this voice will be in between, shuffling between boy voice and man's voice. Such cracked voice is developed because some changes in the vocal cords. That is due to this sexual maturation, the impact of the hormones, cracked voice, growth of hairs, growth of hair on the body. So we see that we'll be having very thin hair on the body by birth, but at certain places the growth of the hair is observed, especially during the sexual maturation, formation of mustache and beards, formation of hair in the armpits and in the genital areas. And sometimes for some people, depending upon their genetic nature, depends upon their parents, the hair is grown throughout whole the body, that is on the chest, on the back, on the hands. So in such a way the hair is grown. The growth of the hair especially starts at this stage when they attain the sexual maturation. So this is one indication that they are attaining the sexual maturity. So growth of the hairs. This is also observed. The skin, it becomes oily. More sebum is secreted in the skin. Because of overproduction of oil, the skin may be attracting more and more bacteria and sometimes may leads to pimples. And a lot of body odor, bad smell is also generated because of the working of bacteria on this oil and other substances found on this skin. And growth of genital organs. Growth of genital organs. Penis in case of males. So these are the various secondary sexual characters that are observed in the boys. These characters show that the organism is turning capable of producing the germ cells. So you see that occasionally the penis, it becomes erect. It is due to the influence of the hormone. Actually all these things are under the control of the hormone, that is the testosterone, the male reproductive organ hormone. So here these are the physical changes. Internally what happens? that is in the reproductive organ called as testis, the production of reproductive cells takes place, germ cells takes place in the testis. That is also due to the influence of testosterone, the germ cells are produced. Okay, we'll discuss it later. Now let us see in case of the girls also, we see most of the things same common. We see the growth of their height, their body increases in size, but a voice wise you will not see that any changes there, because the voice, and here you see their bone size increases, bones width at specific locations, like their hip size increases, hip bone size increases, and their breasts increase in size. It is due to accommodate mammary glands. The mammary glands are the glands which produce milk. In case they give birth to young one, to feed the young one, the mammary glands need to supply milk. So that is the reason why the breasts increase in size, the nipples get dark. Continue. So here we see the growth of hairs on the body, not the mustache and beards, growth of hairs in underarm and in the genital areas. So these are the various changes observed. Here in case of males, the onset of production of male gametes takes place in the testis. Similarly, in females also, the female reproductive cells are produced, released. Actually, in case of females, by birth they will be having number of female cells in their ovaries. But at this age, at the time of sexual maturity, these reproductive cells mature and they are released. The release of ova is initiated by some kind of process called as menstruation. So the onset of menstruation is an indication. It shows that the egg cells are released in the females. Menstruation starts in the girls. So these are the changes. All these changes do not happen at a single time in a single person. These changes may happen slowly, take some months. So you are aware of the changes that are happening in your bodies. Sometimes at this age, the people are worried, tensed. Some of the adolescents, when they find some pimples, they are tensed and worried. They feel that something happens to their body. Some people, when they see that the beards are grown, they feel shy. They cannot go and play with other children. Some people, they are worried why the beards are not grown. They may feel that they have some problem in their bodies. It is because these events are based on hormones. Hormones are controlled by our genes. So it will not happen similarly for all the people. It is different for different people. Depends upon the production of hormone in their body. It depends upon the genes that are present in their body and of their parents. Some people will have very thin hair on their face even. Some people will have very less beard, less number of hairs. Some people will have very thick beard, very stiff hairs, very thick mustache. Some people may have very less. So it is not a problem. It doesn't mean that the sexual maturity is not being attained. So here, the people, those who are in adolescent stage, they need not worry about all the changes here. So all these changes are given in your books. They are brought to your notice, that is to remove the ambiguity in your minds, because you may be gathering such information from your friends which is very confusing and not appropriate. So you will be having faulty assumptions, wrong assumptions about your growth patterns. So that is the reason why this adolescent education and these concepts are given in your books. That is to make you aware of your body the changes that takes place in your body. So all these changes are very natural. So one need not worry about the changes, okay, these changes are not happened to me, and one need not worry, oh, all these changes are happened to my body is changed. So you need not worry. This is a very natural thing which happens because your body is attaining sexual maturity. Your body is attaining. It doesn't mean that you have not completely attained the sexual maturity. A girl who is able to menstruate and produce the egg cells, very soon she cannot participate in reproduction. It will adversely affect her health, physically as well as mentally. So, it needs some time for the complete maturation of our systems. So, it is the onset, starting of the sexual maturation. Your body must be completely grown up. Your mind also must be completely grown up. That is for the production of babies. That is to reproduce. So here the reproductive cells are produced, male reproductive cells by male cells, you call it as sperm cells, and females produce female reproductive cells called as ova or egg cells. So these cells are to be transferred. Fusion should takes place for reproduction. Where the fusion takes place? In case of some animals, the fusion takes place in the environment. Like in frogs, male frog and female frog releases their cells into the water, and in the water the male cell fuses with female and egg is formed in the water. But in most of the cases, higher animals including human beings, fertilization takes place in the body of female. It takes place in the body of female. So the sperm, it has to be transferred to the female's body, and inside the female reproductive system, the fusion of male and female gamete takes place, and the formation of zygote takes place in the female reproductive system. So that is in the body of the female. So there are such arrangements by which in sexual reproduction in humans, the male and female join together. The male passes the sperm cells into the body of the female. The organs are developed in such a way. So when this is done, the formation of the zygote takes place. In the female body, there are such arrangements, there are such organs that is to accommodate this zygote in the female reproductive system till this zygote develops into a baby. So that the whole process is called as pregnancy. So the female body is designed in such a way that it can accommodate the zygote from a very small single cell zygote to a completely grown up baby. Till then, for the period of gestation, 9 months, the zygote till it is developed into completely a baby, the baby is accommodated inside the mother's womb. Such kind of arrangements are done there to provide all the nutrient, water, oxygen, everything to the baby, whatever is needed for the growth of the baby. So such kind of arrangements are done in the female body. So in this way, the organs, the systems, the hormones are designed in such a way that in human sexual reproduction, the male sex cells or the sperm cells are passed to the female body, to the female reproductive system, and inside the system the fusion takes place, and there is a chance of fertilization. If the fertilization takes place, if the male gamete fuses with the female gamete, it leads to pregnancy, and it forms a zygote, and the zygote develops to a baby. If there is no fertilization takes place, then the egg cell is flushed out, released out. That is during a process of that menstruation. So now let us see, the male and female reproductive cells are produced in the reproductive organs systems of male and female in humans. They are different. In case of male reproductive system, if you see the various parts of the male reproductive system, here we see the side view of a male reproductive system. It consists of different parts. Some parts, they help to produce the reproductive cells, and the other parts, they help to pass the reproductive cells into the female reproductive system. Here we can see that in case of male reproductive system, the passage of reproductive cells as well as the urine is same. Urogenital duct this is. So this is the duct which is common for the passage of urine as well as sperm cells. This we can understand by looking at here, that pipe, the duct that is arriving from the urinary bladder is also connected to the same tube which is present in the penis. The same tube is connected to something else inside the scrotal sac. This is the testis. So males have a pair of testes, two testes, in which the production of male reproductive cells takes place because of the hormone testosterone. So where are the germ cells are produced here? Male germs are produced in the testis. So these male reproductive cells are collected by this tube called as vas deferens. Here is the tube. This vas deferens collects the male reproductive cells which are called as sperm cells. The sperm cells are added up with some fluid called as semen. The fluid is added by these seminal vesicle as well as prostate gland. So these accessory prostate gland and seminal vesicles, they add up some fluid to the male gametes, sperm cells. Now the sperm cells are added up with some fluid. What is the necessity of the fluid? The fluid consists of nutrients which help the sperm cells to live for a long time. And moreover, the sperm cells, they have to travel all the way through this penis into the female reproductive system, and even in the female reproductive system also they have to move. They are motile. They should go in search of the egg cell and they have to penetrate the egg cell. So they need energy, they need nourishment that is supplied by the semen. So here the semen is added, and this male gametes that are produced in the testis, which are passed through the vas deferens, and which are nourished by this semen, by the seminal vesicles, this material, it passes through the penis, enters the female reproductive system. So these are the various parts of the male reproductive system that help in the production of male reproductive cells, that is the sperm cells. The sperm cell will have a head, middle piece and a tail like this. So now let us come to the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system, it is present in the lower abdomen of the females. It consists of various parts like uterus, fallopian tubes, ovary, vagina. When a girl baby is born, she is born with the ovaries with hundreds of immature eggs, thousands of immature eggs. These immature eggs starts maturing one by one when she attains the maturation, sexual maturation. That means menstruation, when it starts, it indicates that the immature eggs in the ovary are started maturing. So this egg cell is released here. The matured egg cell which is released is captured by this fallopian tubule. So it travels in the fallopian tubule like this. It comes to this place, fallopian tubule. And if any by chance, if a male reproductive cells enters here, then fertilization takes place at this spot. Here you can see in the female reproductive system, two ovaries are there. As like in males, two testes, in female, two ovaries. So the egg cells may be released either from this ovary or this ovary. For the fertilization, the male gametes must be there in the female reproductive system. How is it possible? How can the male gametes be in the female reproductive system? They are to be introduced into this system. That is done by the male reproductive system. We know that in sexual reproductions, two organisms should join together for the transfer of reproductive cells. The males transfer the reproductive cells through the vagina, and here there is a part called cervix at which the uterus is connected. So whenever these sperm cells are released at this position called as vagina, and these sperm cells, they are nourished with the semen, so they take movement in this direction and they enter into the uterus. But in the uterus there is nothing to fertilize because the eggs are present in the fallopian tubule. So these sperm cells, they have to move towards the egg cell which is in the fallopian tubule. So the sperm cells, they move to the egg cell. There the fertilization takes place. Thousands of sperm cells, only one egg cell is released in a month of period, 28 days, not more than that. In females, in a period of 28 days, they are able to release only one egg cell, either by this ovary or this ovary, sometimes alternately 1 month this ovary, 1 month this ovary. But male gametes, thousands and thousands of male gametes are produced. Of course, it takes very long journey here, and sometimes it may these male reproductive cells may live for some 48 hours to 72 hours. In this time, if they don't find any egg cell, these male cells get disintegrated. And of course, here egg cell is there, but there are no male cells. There is no mating in this period. So in the female body, the egg cell is released, but there is no sexual participation here. There is no entry of male gametes in that period. What happens to that egg cell? Whenever the egg cell is released here, in the uterus, the walls are thickened with blood cells. That is in the anticipation of pregnancy. If there is no male cell entry here, so there is no sexual participation of this organism. So in such cases, this egg cell will disintegrate, and whatever the blood lining is formed in the uterus, it will be flushed out. That is called as menstruation. So the menstruation takes place in a cycle of 28 days if there is no fertilization. If once the fertilization takes place, the menstruation stops till the baby is born. The menstruation stops, and here the fertilized zygote is fixed in the uterus and it grows into the baby. So uterus is a bag-like structure which provide all the layers, all the fluids, everything for the growth of the baby. So once if the fertilization takes place, then the menstruation stops. If there is no fertilization, there are no male cells or sperm cells here for fertilization, then whatever the arrangements are made for pregnancy, or all these arrangements, all this lining and everything is flushed out. That is called as menstruation, which happens in a cycle of 28 days. This is observed in the female reproductive system. So here, if the fertilization takes place, we have seen that if fertilization does not take place, then whatever the basic arrangements are done in the uterus, the lining, the thickening of the lining, the formation of mucus, the formation of the blood vessels, everything is released out in a cyclic manner which takes nearly 1 month or 28 days, and this flushing out takes place 2 to 8 days, called as menstruation cycle. But if fertilization takes place, what is that? If fertilization takes place, the embryo, it grows in its size, it fixes in the uterus. The walls of the uterus are lined with blood and mucus. You call it as placenta. So placenta is the material which is rich in glucose and oxygen, which provides glucose and oxygen to the baby for its growth. The necessary conditions are to be provided for the growth of baby, that is achieved by this placenta. So as the embryo grows up into a baby, you can see an umbilical cord is formed. That means from the placenta there is a cord connected to the baby, which provide all the nutrients, oxygen, and which helps in the removal of waste materials and all such. And the total period is called as gestation. Gestation period, it is of 9 months, which takes for the complete development of the baby. Once the baby is developed, the baby takes birth. So the baby which is developed in the uterus, it comes out through vagina, if it is a natural birth. So this is totally controlled by the hormones. So there are two female hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone plays a major role in providing all the necessary conditions and changes in the uterus for the growth of the baby inside. So we discussed about the sexual reproduction in humans, that is in our case. So we studied the characteristics by which we can decide, we can identify that we are able to produce the reproductive cells. So once you confirm that you are able to produce reproductive cells, then do you think you can reproduce, you can produce babies? So what is the time when you can start produce babies? What are the various issues related to that? During the phase of puberty, adolescence, your sexual secondary characters may develop, your organs get ready to produce sexual cells, reproductive cells. It doesn't mean that you are totally ready to produce young ones. You are not completely ready to reproduce babies. Because it is the initiation, the starting phase of the reproductive system, the development. Initially it produces the reproductive cells. But the reproductive organs, they are to be completely matured. It needs some time. And what are the other issues? Your mind also must be matured to produce young ones, babies. There is a difference between dogs and cats producing babies and humans producing babies. Because humans are social animals, dogs and cats are not. We have social responsibility. If you are able to produce young ones or babies, what are the social issues? Will you be able to raise them? So these are the different issues that are to be decided, discussed. So it doesn't mean that by acquiring the ability of producing reproductive cells, it doesn't mean that we are ready to reproduce. So everyone needs some age for the complete maturation of the reproductive system, for the complete maturation of their mind, ideas, thoughts, decisions. So then you are ready to reproduce. So here there are many issues linked up, there are many pressures. Sometimes there may be a force from your peer group, your friends, your neighbors, and sometimes you may be forced to participate in sexual acts, but you need to know various factors that are linked up with that having a sexual act or to have an attempt to reproduce. So you need to be aware of all these things before you make an attempt to reproduce or before you make to have a sexual intercourse. So these are very essential. You may be observing even some governments, okay, some people are achieved their sexual maturity, mental maturity, they got some age of some 24, 25 years of age. They got some good jobs, employment. So they have earnings. Even though they produce the babies, they can raise them. Even then, such cases also the government makes some announcements, don't give birth to many babies. Limit your children to 1 or 2. Why government makes such statements? There is pressure from the government. The government order all the doctors to make family planning operations to control the population. So it shows that humans are the social animals. If we bring the new population into the society, we should be able to provide all the amenities to the people who are coming, the population, the generations which are coming. So we have social responsibility. We all have to look about the social elements also, as we are a social animal. So simply by attaining sexual maturity, we cannot reproduce and produce the babies as like other animals. Moreover, there are many issues linked up with the other issues linked up with the reproduction. The second most important part here is STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. Sexually transmitted diseases means there are so many diseases which transmit by having a sexual intercourse. So if you have an attempt of having a sexual intercourse with a stranger, you don't know about the person. In such case, some diseases may pass from the person. Syphilis, gonorrhea, warts, most importantly HIV. These are transferred by sexual contact. So if you have unprotected sex with the people, with the strangers you don't know, of course anyway, if you, even though you know the person for few days, you don't know what is his health status, health condition. You don't know how much infections he has in his blood. He might be infected with HIV, he might be infected with some other syphilis or gonorrhea. Surely that infection transmits. So these are cureless diseases, life-threatening diseases. So in the expectation of some pleasure or fun, if you attempt such sexual intercourse with somebody there, if you attempt an unprotected sex, you will be the victim of these kind of diseases. So this is a very serious issue which should be properly judged, or thinking should be done. Without any thinking, by the force of your friends or somebody else's, if you do that there, you will be in a very big problem. So sexually transmitted diseases are the major problem here by having unprotected sex. Here, to avoid this, is there any prevention? Yes, Here the preventive measures are using physical barriers like condoms. It is a physical barrier which is worn on the penis. So by that the fluids in the male and female body are not in contact. So there is no transmission of virus. It can give you protection. So in this way, prevention of these sexually transmitted diseases can be done by using the physical barriers like condoms. And the next thing, birth control. So if you attempt for a sexual act, sexual intercourse with other gender, that means if you participate in a sexual act with another person, there is a chance of pregnancy. Before we discussed that the male gamete fuses with female gamete. So there is a chance of pregnancy. Sometimes this pregnancy is unwanted. When it is unwanted? The married couple, the couple who are married, they don't want children. Then they don't want this pregnancy. So this is unwanted. And even the two strangers who participate in sexual intercourse, pregnancy is unwanted. And already we discussed that with an immature reproductive system, a female child gets the pregnancy, it affects her body, her mental status, everything adversely. It badly affects her body, both physically and mentally, when she attains pregnancy in an unmatured state. So to avoid that unwanted pregnancy, we can use contraceptives. So there are methods by which we can avoid pregnancy. To avoid pregnancy, methods are using hormone pills, tablets or drugs. So these tablets or the pills, it will control the maturation or fertilization of the egg with the sperm. So these pills are to be taken orally. Definitely they have so many side effects and spoil our body. So this is a prevention method. It doesn't show that yes, you can do whatever you like by using this. Because taking chemicals or drugs into our body, surely they will have side effect on our body. It just indicates that yes, there is a prevention it shows. It doesn't mean that you have all the options and you can commit whatever you like. It doesn't mean that. Right? So pills and physical barriers like condoms. See, the condoms, they prevent sexually transmitted diseases sometimes, as well as the pregnancy also. So pregnancy is also avoided by wearing the condoms. So they assure you the protection from being pregnant, at the same time from the transmission of sexually transmitted diseases. But here one more point, the usage of these pills or the usage of these condoms also must be known. If not, there may be a problem still exist. So these contraceptives also fail. Sometimes the pills, if they are not taken in a proper way, they may fail. And I already told you there will be some side effects. If the barriers are also not used properly, they may fail. They are made out of some material called as latex, they may tear. In such cases also there is a chance of infection. So that is the second thing. And there are some physical barriers like loops, copper T. Copper T means it is a physical barrier which is fixed in the uterus of the female. So we cannot think any of these methods are excellent and extraordinary and problemless methods. There is a problem associated with each and every method here we discussed here. But these are the options. So copper T means they will place a barrier in the uterus which will prevent the fertilization of sperm and egg cell. But it will cause irritation and infections in the uterus of females. And the other method most widely used for the married couples is that loops. Once they have children, 1 children or 2 children, they wanted to go for family planning. That means they don't want any more children. In such cases, their reproductive tubes, we have seen that there vas deferens in males. So the vas deferens they will cut and they will tie a loop. So by the sperm cells which are formed, the sperm cells they cannot pass into the female reproductive system. So the ducts which carry the cells are cut and looped. This is done by a minor surgery. This is a less problematic one. If it is done in males, you call it as vasectomy. In females, if the fallopian tubule is cut and it is tied, it is called as tubectomy in females, and in males it is called as vasectomy. So by this method, surgical methods, we can avoid pregnancy. So avoidance of pregnancy is mostly used and accepted in case of when they go for family planning. So it is accepted in case of family planning. They have children, they don't want any more children. Or the couple, the married couple, they haven't planned yet their life, so they need some time for the pregnancy. In such cases, that is used. So these are the various options for the birth control. And next thing, sex determination. Sex determination means finding out whether the baby is male or female before the baby is born. So the technology enables us to scan to know how the internal parts are there. So whether the doctors are able to know whether the baby is male or female. But once this is known out, some of the people, those who have bad intention in their mind, bad ideas about the male and female genders, those who have discrimination in their minds, once if they come to know that the baby which is growing inside the mother womb is a female, they are attempting abortions, killing of the fetus. It is called as feticide, female feticides. Many of the female children are killed like that in the past 10 years. So by the female population has gradually gone down. The males are more in society compared to females, which is causing a very big problem now. It is because of the bad assumption that female children are a burden to the parents. So that was a very wrong and faulty assumption by the people. So this discrimination led to the female feticides. So that is the reason why the government has banned sex determination. Doctor should not tell whether the baby is male or female to the patient. If they do so, that is a crime. The doctor will be arrested, and the people who attempted that, they also will be arrested against law. It is to control or prevent the female feticide. So when the fetus is growing up, when the embryo is formed, that also can be removed by a process called as, by a surgical process called as abortion. Sometimes when an unwanted pregnancy is done, the pregnancy is initiated, if it has to be removed, that is done by abortion. That is a surgical method. But whatever the methods here we discussed here, that is for the birth control, that can be followed by the people, those who have started their life as a couple, getting married and started their life as a couple, then as a part of their life, with all the other social issues, they can take the choices. But as an individual, as an immature person, to make use of these things, you must be completely aware of each and every consequence, not only technical, not only health related. You should be able to know the social consequences also before you commit any act. So that is very important. So the next one is overpopulation. So by the process of reproduction, the population increases. So why this process is there in the living organisms, in the humans? Why the living organisms should reproduce? There is a lot of population. Many people, many socialists say that the overpopulation is the main reason for all the problems now. The population is growing up on the planet. That is the main problem for all these things. All the people are not able to get the basic amenities, and no one is, all the people are not able to live comfortably. But in the view of science, you say that, okay, yes, reproduction is a natural ability of the organism. Every organism wanted to perpetuate its race. See, in your family, your grandfather, grandmother, they wanted to continue their race. They wanted to continue their vamsam. In the same way, every species, every animal wanted to continue its species. Tiger wanted to continue its species. Humans wanted to continue their species, develop their species. It is a part. You can see the other social aspect also. The overpopulation may not be a problem if there is no discrimination, high and low, if there is no distribution of indiscriminate distribution of money, circulation of money between the people, higher social status, low social status. So various issues. So whatever it may be, so the overpopulation is also a problem. It is identified that can be controlled by birth control methods that is suggested by the government. So by that, the government also able to produce basic amenities and all the things to the people. And even the people also must have the social responsibility, social idea, social consciousness, health consciousness, everything, all these aspects in mind before they commit the reproduction or they commit the sexual intercourse or whatever so.